One of my favorite movie genres is animation, so today we're going to be counting down my top 10 favorite animated movies of all time. This is the first edition of Top 10 Tuesdays, where every Tuesday I'll be giving you a movie-related top 10. At number 10, let's go ahead and hop straight into this list. Who would have ever thought that Pixar deciding to make a superhero movie at a time where comic book films weren't nearly as popular as they are now? That film, over 20 years later, will go on to be one of the best superhero movies we've ever gotten. And even in that day and age, before there was a set blueprint on what worked and what didn't work in the comic book genre, The Incredibles feels like it managed to crack the code anyway. The family dynamic works beautifully, Syndrome is a brilliant villain, but my favorite part about The Incredibles is its fantastic writing. This script is so well paced and it's filled with hilarious jokes, awesome action sequences, and a compelling story. All of those together make The Incredibles a fantastic movie, and it's my number 10. At number 9, I have Zootopia. I've always viewed animation as the space for movies that can't be made in live action, and I think Zootopia, a story about a city full of animals, is the poster child for that. And aside from the concept itself, this really is just a strong mystery story. Nick and Judy's push-pull dynamic is reminiscent of the 80s and 90s buddy cop movies, and the twist villain, not to spoil a movie that's been out for over 10 years now, but Mayor Bellwether is one of Disney's strongest twist villains. Usually when those big reveals happen, I kind of roll my eyes and say, oh, that was either obvious or that doesn't make sense, but this one really did fit the story. All of those components combined make a fresh and creative concept that's one of Disney's strongest to date. Next up, I have Shrek 2. This movie feels like such an anomaly because very rarely do we get a movie with as much originality as the first Shrek, and it's even more rare for the movie's sequel to be even better, and that's the case here. This film is hilarious. It features two of my favorite jokes on this entire list. The first one being the Cops reference called Knights.
Catnip. That's no mine.
And then Fairy Godmother going through the drive-thru.
Well, hi there. Welcome to Friar's Fat Boy. May I take your order? My diet is ruined.
Those two moments never fail to make me laugh. I also think the third act is just so much better than it has any right to be, with Fairy Godmother singing I Need a Hero, and the huge gingerbread man, and Shrek riding a horse to get to Fiona. It's a finale that feels so much more grand and epic than I would ever expect of Shrek 2. I also think this is just a very natural story progression from the first Shrek. That's what the best sequels are. They're just what it looks like whenever you let the first film's story keep going. And in Shrek 2's case, that leads to one of the most riveting and hilarious animated films we've ever gotten. At number 7, I have Cars. I think for animation lists like this, everyone gets their one nostalgia pick, and this is mine. It's the film I watched the most by far growing up, but even beyond that, I think it's just a fantastic film in general. It's funny, it's intense, and it's about as awe-inducing as Pixar has gotten visually. The character of Lightning McQueen is one of Pixar's most well-written. He goes from a selfish jerk to a likable hero that you want to root for, and that only happens because of his interactions with the characters in Radiator Springs. This is such a fun batch of characters, from Mater and Sally to Doc and Fillmore. They all work and they come together to make Radiator Springs an incredibly fun environment that I wish we could have gotten to see more of in Cars 2 and Cars 3. But yeah, Cars is my nostalgia pick. It's a movie that's only on this list because I have such a strong sentimental attachment to it, but I also think it's just a really good movie overall. Next up, I have Ratatouille. I've always thought that if a Pixar movie was going to compete for real Oscars, not just the Best Animated Feature category, it would be Ratatouille. The visuals are stunning, the writing is strong, and the whole concept feels sort of like a Mad Libs game, like a name an animal, Rat decides to become a name a job, chef in Name a City, Paris, France. This is the second Brad Bird film on this list, which I think is a great testament to how phenomenal of a director he is, and that's fully on display here. The environment in the kitchen that he crafts is so spot on. I know Anthony Bourdain said that this is the most accurate cooking film he's ever seen, and I think that's so cool, especially with how this environment interacts with the story. The character work here is also top-notch. Remy and Alfredo are a great duo, and Anton Ego works as a menacing antagonist before undergoing a beautiful character arc, one of the best transitions that Pixar's given us to date. So overall, Ratatouille is just a movie that I love in both story and atmosphere. Moving into the top 5, I have The Lego Movie. This is hands down the funniest movie on this list, and in my personal opinion, the funniest movie I've ever seen. It's so original and unbelievably fast-paced. Like the last time that I watched it, not only was I laughing out loud every 10 seconds, but when the movie ended, it only felt like about 10 minutes had passed. It's an absolute shame that I think there are movies on this list higher that are objectively better, but being completely honest, if I was given an hour and 40 minutes to live, I'm turning on the Lego Movie. I also think the voice cast here knocks it out of the park. Chris Pratt and Will Arnett, and especially Morgan Freeman, they're all fantastic, and they all play a role in making this movie as fantastic as it is. I just wish the sequel was better. At number 4, I have Toy Story 3. From beginning to end, this movie just feels like Pixar flexing its muscles and showing how great it is at what it does. The way that it completes existing character arcs for Woody and Buzz and Andy, all while setting up completely new ones, is just brilliant writing. I think Sunnyside as a setting for our story works so well, as it goes from charming to sinister in a hurry, and the prison break sequence in the third act is way better than it has any right being. And as for that ending, the fact that Pixar had the guts to show us our favorite characters that we grew up with, we get to see what it looks like when they're accepting impending death, that's still insane to me. And then the second half of the ending, when Andy gives his toys to Bonnie, I mean, that's just an emotionally perfect ending, and I don't know how you could end the movie better than that. I'm someone who actually loves Toy Story 4 and 5, but even though I know it's kind of an overused and worn down talking point, I think Toy Story 3 was a perfect end for the franchise, and I think it is the best Pixar movie. At number 3, I have Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Simply put, I think this is the best animation we've ever seen on film. The colors pop, the style is so unique, and the movie just looks like a comic book. On a story level, the narrative is masterfully constructed, and it's so fast-paced too. Like, the film is 2 hours and 20 minutes long, which is freakishly long for an animated film, but the way the story moves makes it feel like 90 minutes. The character work here is also really well written, as we get to dive deeper into the relationships that were set up in the first film, like between Miles Morales and his parents, or Miles and Gwen. But I think the character that I love the most in this film is Miguel O'Hara. And he's one of my favorite types of characters, which is a protagonist that becomes something of an antagonist just because he wants something different than the hero we're rooting for. And I think that kind of character-driven conflict is what makes this movie so strong. I cannot wait for Beyond the Spider-Verse next year. At number 2, I have How to Train Your Dragon. Obviously, from its placement on this list, I think it's the best DreamWorks movie, but I also think it's one of the few films that manages to blend a compelling story with the stylistic advantage that animation provides. The story is mature with how it handles its characters and their relationships with each other. It works thematically on a number of different levels, but my favorite part about How to Train Your Dragon is its score. I'm a big movie music guy, and this is hands down my personal favorite. I probably listen to this soundtrack 5 or 6 times a week, to be honest. It's on repeat in my playlist, and that music, since I have such a strong connection to it, it emotionally supercharges every single moment in this film for me. A couple of months ago, I actually got to see this film live in concert with a real orchestra playing the score live alongside the movie, and that's an experience that I'm never gonna forget. Does that play a factor in this movie being ranked so high? Maybe, but I also think it's just a fantastic movie overall. But before I give you my number 1, here are a few honorable mentions that I wish could have been included on this list. I'm just gonna fly through them real quick. Soul, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, Rango, How to Train Your Dragon 2 and 3, Monsters Inc., Coco, and The Fantastic Mr. Fox. Like I said, I wish I could include all of these. I do love each one of these films, but there are only so many spots. But taking that number 1 spot is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I've seen this movie countless times, both at home and in theaters, and it just gets better every time I watch it. Making a film about an ensemble of Spider-Man as opposed to just one is such a creative concept, and not only to come up with that premise, but to execute it in a way that works this well is still so insane to me. It's also very heavy on the idea of anybody being able to wear the mask, which is something I really enjoy in Spider-Man movies. All of its themes are very emotionally relevant, and they lead to some incredible moments. Particularly the What's Up Danger scene. Aside from the test flight sequence in How to Train Your Dragon, that moment may be my favorite on this list. Overall, it's one of the very few movies that I've seen that I feel comfortable labeling as perfect, and for that reason, it's my number 1. But this is just my ranking, and I'd love to hear yours down below. Don't forget to come back next Tuesday for a brand new top 10. If you want to help out the channel, be sure to like and subscribe for more videos like this. But with that being said, thanks so much for watching, and God bless.